The U.S. labor market continues to defy the Federal Reserve's efforts to slow it down. The latest data from the Labor Department shows 237,000 Americans filed for first-time unemployment benefits last week. That's down 12,000 from the previous week.
Yep. Joining us now for more here in Studio 57 for more is Jordyn Holman. She's a business reporter with the New York Times. So after June's job numbers and latest unemployment claims, where does the state of the labor market stand? How do you feel about these numbers?
It's very strong numbers, and that is a positive thing that people are employed. But when it comes to the Federal Reserve looking at slowing down the economy, a big part of it is making sure that jobs aren't that strong, people aren't asking for raises, because that is part of what's fueling the increases that we've been seeing for the past year.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics also released the latest producer price index. So walk us through that number and just remind us exactly what the producer price index is.
So it is the equivalent to the CPI, so the Consumer Price Index. So this PPI shows how much it costs companies to produce their goods, so it includes transportation, energy, things like that.
Right, as opposed to how much it costs us to buy it.
Yes, but it's very key because that influences how much companies are then charging us. If they have to pay more to produce stuff, get things over to the U.S., they're going to pass those costs on. So the number that we saw today is so that it's coming down. It's actually decelerating. So that's a very positive sign, showing that the efforts that the Fed is doing is maybe flowing through to companies. It still will be decided if companies are passing on some of the costs to us.
Right.
So all of those things are playing concert with one another.
And that's how the previous number having to do with unemployment sort of works together, because if we all have jobs, we don't care. We'll pay top dollar for the items, right? And then, of course, businesses will charge us. Yeah,
and CEOs have said as much. Basically this idea like, well, consumers haven't blinked yet. Specifically when you think about like the packaged good companies, the Coca-Colas, Pepsis of the world, they've said, yeah, we've raised prices and people haven't balked at it yet. But we'll see if that's still the case. Some of those company earnings will come later this month, early August, and we'll see if that narrative has changed.
And there's the criticism that hasn't been passed on, from gas to groceries. I mean, I even looked at the toothpaste that I'm getting, and I swear the packaging is getting smaller.
And you know they're not going back after that.
I don't think it's in my head here also.
Remember? Shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation.
We talked about that.
Yes.
One other thing I'm looking at, markets were digesting the inflation number from yesterday. It was 0.2% in June, but shelter, we all have to pay for shelter, whether it's rent or mortgage, rose by 0.4% there. Higher compared to a year ago. What's a concern here? When do we expect or really hope that number will fall?
So shelter's interesting compared to the toothpaste, compared to food, because Americans aren't renegotiating their rent every month. So a lot of experts say there might be a lag when it comes to that shelter number. If you're out there trying to find an apartment now, it's definitely it feels like a better negotiating situation overall. Rents are lower, but we're still lagging those high rents that I moved to New York last year that I had to still pay for. So some of that shelter stuff takes longer than just the foods, the apparel of the world.
Right. A lot of people are still holding their breath here,
always.
Major cities.
Everywhere.
Even in London, where I live. So
that's a major
I
city.
hear you. Yeah. Jordyn Holman, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.